Been a minute, y'all. How's everybody doing today? It's your boy G alongside Alec Foster on the episode 1600. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know it's been a little while since we last recorded, but we are back with a whole lot of great content for you guys. Again, for you guys watching on YouTube, like, rate, review, subscribe, all of that for us. Follow us on IG and TikTok at section.300. Follow us on Twitter at section 300 sports. You can find me at Just Say G and Alec at LakersFan24. Great things across the board from us all over the place. And we're here today with a special guest. We have from the Athletic, Mr. Jason Jones, who focuses a whole lot on the Kings right now. He's been covering them recently, and we definitely have a whole lot to talk to him about in that regard. So we thank you, sir, for joining us, and how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Summer league's over. Free agency's pretty much over. I can kind of sort of have a life for about 6 weeks. Kind of have, this when I say that something's going to happen. So things are calmed down a little bit.
Got you. And before we really get into all those things that just went down, I wanted to actually start just with how you started. You've been covering a lot of Sacramento things, and you had the Raiders things on. You've been covering those all of that for some time. Just wanted to talk about your start and how you really got into sports writing and all of that. What led you to journalism and that calling?
Okay, so going back to when I was a kid, my main goal was to find a job I can get in the games for free. Young, we were poor. I loved the Lakers, could never afford a ticket, so I was like, I got to figure out some way to get into these games.
Right.
And someone told me as a kid, find your hobby or what you like to do and make a job out of it. I'm like, I like to write. I like to talk about sports. I got to get a job where I'm getting paid to be around sports. So that was kind of my goal. And I got to college, and actually, I didn't want to write. I wanted to be like a Jim Rome. Okay. I wanted to do like radio, just make jokes, have fun. And I think my junior year at school at Cal, I had this real laid back attitude about turning in papers. It's probably not a good advice for people. I had this real laid back thing where I felt like if I wrote the paper too early, it wasn't going to be good. So I would just kind of chill. I played back then. It was on the Super Nintendo. I'd be playing Madden. That's okay. Let me get that paper done. And we didn't have laptops, going down to like the computer lab and type out the paper and all that. And one paper for a communications class, I don't remember what it was about because I kind of just threw it together at the end. I go to class, got my I had big earphones on. I'm just chilling in the back.
Right.
And my GSI is talking, and he's going, they're, in the best paper that was turned in, it was well thought out. I'm like, okay, what dork turned this in? And he goes, and he said it was me. I was like, oh, what? Me? He asked me, hey, have you ever thought about writing? I'm like, no, I'm going to be on the radio. I ain't trying to write. And he was like, you should really look into writing. And that was like the end of my junior year.
Okay.
Wow.
So I went to the school paper and said, okay, I'll give this writing thing a try. And it's kind of took off from there. Went to grad school for journalism because I really had 1 year of writing experience outside of just academic stuff. Wow. And I said, I can't get a job with this. When I look back, that stuff was so bad. I was like, this is terrible. I can't. And so, but, I went to grad school for a couple of years, graduated, went to the Sacramento Bee as an intern, latched on there after the internship, covered high school sports, moved on to covering the Raiders, which was weird because it was like a good intro to the business because they always say you never want to cover the team you grew up rooting for. Okay. And there I was covering the team I grew up rooting for. And I always tell everyone, it's like finding out Santa Claus is fake. Like you just find out everything you never wanted to know about that team. I'm like,
you don't want to find out how the sausage is really made.
Right.
Yeah. I had the rough years. I had the Jamarcus Russell, Lane.
That's
I had some
tough.
I had some characters. I had angry Randy Moss.
Okay.
I had Warren Sapp near the end of his. I just had a lot of just crazy characters on that team, but it was a good introduction to pro sports because the Raiders, when you were covering them, they didn't help you, but as someone told me, they don't really stop you. So it kind of really allowed me to kind of just jump out there, try to be creative with everything. And then eventually, I think in 2008-9, they moved me to basketball. against my will. By the way, I didn't want to cover basketball.
Interesting. Okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big Laker fan. I'm like, I don't want to cover the Kings. I'm a Laker fan, and
Fair
and
enough.
the whole city of Sacramento knew I was a Laker fan.
Yeah.
Because my bio on the website said lifelong Laker fan.
Yeah.
And so they dropped me on the Kings. So of course half the fans hate me.
Wow.
Because they just assume I'm out to get them. And I'm like, trust me, y'all ain't that good. Ain't nobody out to get you.
Wow.
And I would just be like a troll on Twitter. I still kind of am. I think I tweeted one time, not one Laker fan has ever waking up in the morning and go, what are the Kings doing today? I'm like, it's true. I mean,
Actually, Garrett might be the exception to that rule.
Stop, Alex. Don't do that right now.
I'm just saying, but I mean, for me, it's much easier to cover a team I didn't grow up rooting for.
Yeah.
It took me about 4 years to not look at the Raiders and think about work.
Okay.
Wow.
It took me about 4 or 5 years to kind of I wouldn't even wear Raiders stuff for years. And I'm a big, old school NWA fan. So I had the Raiders stuff regardless. But I was like, I don't even want to be seen wearing this stuff because I just associated them with work. So after a few years, I kind of got out of my system and got season tickets for a couple of years till they moved. But they moved.
Achieved your goal, getting into games for free.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I achieved the goal. Yeah. So, but yeah, I got, started covering the Kings in 2009, took over full-time 2010. And then that's what I've been doing since, just the Kings. And I dabble in a lot of other stuff now, but the Kings is the primary focus. Now with The Athletic, I write culture stuff. So that's I'm writing about music, shoes, social justice. I'm kind of going all over the place over there now.
Yeah, awesome. You got great reads all across the board. I've been reading a few things there. I want to talk about the Kings, though. But one, you as a Laker fan, as you now are full time with the Kings, just how is that still? Does that still kind of you catch yourself laughing at times, or have you embraced the Kings fully now with you being there?
No, the thing is, I like a lot of people who work for the Kings. I got a lot of friends there, but I'll never be a Kings fan just because their work. But it's easy. It's easier that way for me because I'm like, you know what, this is work. But I mean, I'd be lying if I'd say there's a lot of people there I like, or people who have come through there that I really like and I root for. I want to see them do well. But they just, just knowing how the organization's been for the last few years, you realize it's going to be tough for anybody to succeed there. But I mean, I don't ever go there thinking, oh yeah, hey, this is Lakers. I mean, to me, the goals of the franchises and everything are so different. Mm-hmm. They're in such different spaces. Even when the Lakers were bad, it was still a different type of bad.
Yeah.
So it was it's funny. The fans get more into it than I do. I'm not even thinking about it. I think just today I tweeted that, the Kings had Davion Mitchell on the All Summer League team. A fan replies to me, there's no Lakers on the team. I'm like, so? I'm not even thinking about the Lakers the way the fans are. I'm like, I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's the fans get more out of it. I think for a while there was a lot of anger and and then it was kind of they realized that doesn't compromise my work. And I think, back in the day, there was this whole idea when it came to being a journalist that you were you had no feelings, but I think we're all old enough, smart enough to realize everyone has opinions, feelings.
Right.
It's about I say you got to be fair, and you got to be accurate.
Okay.
I mean, those are two things. You got to be fair, and to me, part of being fair is being objective. I don't cover the Kings like they're the Brooklyn Nets. I don't go, okay, they're not. I'm like, and I was all last season on Twitter with the fans. I'm like, this team isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they'd be mad at me. Oh, I'm like, no, this is not a good team. I'm like, and I would tell them, I talk to people around the league. This isn't my opinion. Mm-hmm. I talk to scouts, other coaches. Is this, and they'll tell me this is not a good team. Mm-hmm. So I just approach it differently with that. I don't get worried about, well, I'm not writing going, okay, the Kings did this. Oh, by the way, what are the Lakers? I don't operate that way. And really, it's funny. I don't really follow the Lakers very closely right now. I mean, I gotta follow. The Kings are my job.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I don't really get a chance to sit around and just watch the Lakers all the time because they're both West Coast teams. A lot of times they're playing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's now it's more of a fun thing. I mean, every now and then I have some fans who get it. We kind of joke about it. You still got some who are like, yeah, you got some who are still mad. I'm like, okay, whatever. And they always talk about you're a Laker fan. I said, you realize you lose the I'm a Laker fan argument every time because there's nothing you can say that tops that.
Right.
You can't top 17 banners to your banner from Rochester.
Right.
It's a pointless argument, but I have fun with it. Like I said, I got a lot of friends with the Kings. I always used to tease Vlade, remind Vlade where he started. I remind Doug Christie who his first team was. So I mean, I have a lot of fun with it. I got a lot of friends over there. I really would love to see a lot of those guys do well because I mean, I know a lot of the work they put in.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I would love to see a lot of those guys have some success. And I've never covered a playoff series with them, so there's kids who were like sophomores in high school who've never seen them in the playoffs. So
yeah, I'm still waiting on it. I'm still waiting on it. I'm an LA guy. A lot of my family though is up in Sacramento. Oh, it's funny with them, and hopefully this doesn't bother Sacramento folks. A lot of my family that's up there are Laker fans, even though they're up there too. So
I believe it.
Yeah,
I believe it. I mean, a lot of those games up here sound like Staples Center.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, Laker fans will take over that arena.
Yeah, Laker fans travel well for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny with that too. Just the last part with it, just like because they're all up there, it doesn't bother me that they root for the Lakers. But I'm like, I want the Kings to do well so they have their hometown team to root for. But as you mentioned, that team like continues to be as they are. So as look at the team this year.
Yeah, 15 years of no playoffs and counting. If they miss it next season, they'll set their record.
They'll have the longest playoff drought.
Because when Minnesota made it a couple of years ago, there were some Kings fans going, dang, because they would have beat us to the record.
Wow.
They're like, Minnesota got in once, and then they're out of it again, but they don't have, they were the team ahead of the Kings. If Minnesota hadn't had that one Jimmy Butler year, they would have probably, I think, broke the record this past season.
Yeah, wow. Not quite the record race you want to be in.
Yeah, I mean, it's infamy more than being famous.
Okay, right.
Sadly.
But I wanted to stick with the theme of covering the team like fair and objectively. What are kind of your thoughts of how the Kings could potentially do this season? I mean, they're riding high off of the Summer League championship. As we noted as well. But...
You see, that Laker fan, and you came out because you kind of was like the Summer League.
We're trying to show them some love. We're trying.
What are some realistic, aspirations for this Kings team going into this next season?
I think they can crack the top 10 in the West if things go well, which will put them in the play-in situation. And then from there, anything can happen, as Memphis proved. So I definitely think they can crack that top 10. I mean, I look at it last season, they had 2 9-game losing streaks, and they had a streak where they lost 9 of 11.
Yes. And
they I mean, if you just go 3-6 in those 2 9-game losing streaks, they're in the play-in.
Yeah.
So I mean, you look at it, as bad as they were for stretches, they still were they were 10 games under 500. And if you, like I said, you take, you flip that a little bit, just 6 wins, and I mean, they had a game against, I think, Charlotte where they were up with about a minute to go by like 7, and they proceeded to do everything they could.
That game. Yeah.
And they had a lot of games where
neither team was playing defense in that game. I remember.
Yeah, they had a lot of games where they would do. I mean, that game was like the perfect storm of mistakes. Guys missing free throws, taking quick shots. They fouled a 3-point shooter.
Yeah,
I think it was PJ Washington became like Kevin Garnett, and They had a lot of games where you go, man, if you just had a little bit of defense, just a little. I mean, they had one. I forget where they finished exactly, but they were on pace for the worst defense in NBA history.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave up like 120 plus like 7 games in a row, and it wasn't like 120. It was like 138, 141, 130. You know, they were just they would give up like 90 something points in 3 quarters. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, I think if they could just tighten that a little bit, I mean, they don't have to be, you know, the bad boy Pistons.
Of course,
if they could just be, if they were just like 20th, I know, a little below average defensively, the way they can score. They can crack the top 10. And to me, that would be a step in the right direction, because then you get in the top 10. Who knows? Maybe you pull off an upset or two, and now you're playing, you know, the Lakers, Utah, or somebody in the first round.
Right.
Yeah. I'm always joking with Garrett on the show.
Sorry. Go ahead, Alec.
I was just saying, I'm always joking with Garrett on the show that they're the perennial 11 seed Kings. And they kind of fell into that same 11 seed last year as well, too. But it's tough, as you were alluding to, kind of closing games with the young team as well, too, and a kind of young head coach in Luke Walton as well, who's had his issues with young teams in the past with the Lakers as well. So there's kind of a plethora of things they got to address, I think. But I think that is a good target for them, kind of the play-in tournament.
That would be a step in the right direction, because even the year they finished 9th a couple of years ago, they were still like 9 games. They weren't close. I mean, they finished 9th, but it was like a distant 9th. And I call that the Mirage season, because they won 39 games. But you look at that season, LeBron like missed 30 games. You know, that was the year that Jimmy Butler decided he was going to destroy the Timberwolves.
Oh, yeah.
By himself. I mean, yeah, they finished 9th, but all things considered, does anyone think they were the 9th best team in the West? Not really. So, I mean, but people were they had been bad so long. That 39 wins felt like 50 to people. They're like, "Oh my God, we're so good." I'm like, "No, you know, they were thinking 9-16 after the break, you know, and they never played defense." And I've been saying for years, I don't care what they do. It's so much fun to watch them score. I said, "Is it fun when they give up 140?"
Yeah, I'm always talking about defense. So
I said that's not. I said I don't care. I said I've always said, when you're a losing team, I don't care what it looks like. If you got to win games 80-75, you take that. I said, to me, a loser mindset is, well, how does it look when we win? Who cares? I mean, I don't think Milwaukee won a championship going, you know what? Yeah, we won, but did it look pretty?
Right. Yeah, no.
You know, who cares how it looks? And I think, you know, a lot of times they get caught up in, well, what about our pace? I'm like, I don't care about, you know, it's good for the style of play you want. You know, you got a young team that can run, but if you can't get stops, I don't care how fast you play. All you're doing is
giving up 130.
Yeah, you're scoring 125 and you're giving up 130. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, and what I was going to ask next was, does Davion help with that at all? Is he going to actually have a big impact defensively, helping this team going forward?
I think so, just because of the fact that he cares. I mean, and he wants to do it. I mean, when you watch the Kings over the last few years, they haven't had guys that they even wanted to play defense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Halliburton was a breath of fresh air in that.
Yeah, you drop in a Corey Joseph here and there. You know, you drop in guys like that, you know, and it was usually veterans, like, you know, a Garrett Temple's on your team, you know, guys like that. But in terms of their young nucleus, you haven't had defenders or guys who are, you know, I think Tyrese can be a good defender. De'Aaron can be a good defender, you know, but they don't. You know, what you can do and what you actually go out and do are two different things. And I think from day one, Davion, he plays so hard on defense.
Yeah.
You're going to look real silly if you're not at least giving the same type of effort.
Right.
They haven't had guys like that. And I think he's going to help them. I mean, I'm not going to put it on him to turn it around by himself. Like I think I wrote that if he turns them to a good defensive team by himself, basically, he should win Rookie of the Year. I don't care what he scores, because they were literally the worst defense I've ever seen in my life last year. And I grew up watching those bad Warrior defenses from back in the day. You know, even going back to the 80s when Doug Moe and them in Denver would give up a ton of points. I mean, I've seen some where I go, wow, but that was by far the worst defense I've ever seen. It's in part because you literally had 3-4 guys. You know, normally you can hide one guy on defense. Right. They were trying to hide 3 and 4 guys sometimes.
Yeah, you can't.
You know, I mean,
when you're playing zone, I guess, but
yeah, and even then, if you're a bad defender, you're still a bad defender in zone because you still let guys go by you. And I think at one point, Luke Walton was like, I just asked the guys, can you make him dribble more than twice before he goes by you? Mm-hmm. I mean, I just imagine that. Like, can I at least make him dribble twice? I mean, but it was really that bad. It was like if you were having a bad game, you hope the Kings were on the schedule because you're gonna get some good looks. Right. You're gonna get some open looks. You're gonna be able to get out, and and if you got physical, and they weren't gonna do anything. I mean, I think Davion, pound for pound, is probably gonna be their toughest guy off the bat.
Sure.
Yeah, I hope he makes a good impact. We see across the rest of this roster too. There's guys that are still trying to find their spot. You did another podcast I saw recently where you talked about how Buddy Hield thought he was packing his bags and was going to LA. So with guys thinking that they're going to be bouncing around, and there's been some frustration in that locker room that it seemed over the years. Just how does that team get back fully on the right track with all this potential turnaround that could be happening soon?
See, like when a guy like Buddy, I don't worry about him because I think no matter how frustrated he might be, Buddy only knows how to play one way. He's going to go all out. So I don't worry about Buddy no matter what happens. If they put him on the bench, he won't like it, but he's not going to dog it. He doesn't know. I don't think Buddy knows how to dog it on the court. I mean, like defensively, he may not be good, but that don't mean he's not, he's not purposely not trying to be. He's just not good. He's not out there like not caring. He just doesn't execute it. But I think no matter what happens with him, he'll be fine. I wonder about Marvin Bagley III and how he's going to be. Definitely. Just because it's no secret the team was looking to move him. I mean, when he broke his finger this season, the team let him go home, and then the GM said that was a decision between the team and his agent. And that whenever you hear the team and the agent decided, that pretty much means they were going to trade you. Mm-hmm. So it would explain why Marvin might not have been giddy about coming back. Marvin probably went home thinking, I'm not coming back there. Mm-hmm. Then lo and behold, he's back on the team. So I wonder how he'll be. But even with Marvin, it's not like Marvin's a locker room pariah. It's not like he's going to go in there and destroy the team. Mm-hmm. I just think, you got to, with Marvin, he just had so many injuries that messes up the timeline sort of with development because a lot of the minutes they were going to play their small lineups 2 years ago, Marvin was going to be the small ball center. Now you're not taking Rashawn Holmes off the court for Marvin Bagley, defensively especially. Mm-hmm. And Harrison Barnes, their best lineup most of last year, pretty much all last year, was when Marvin wasn't on the court. So, I mean, and they would go to that small lineup because they would have Buddy out there because you can, if you just have Buddy out there struggling, you can kind of work with that. You got two guys they're targeting, it's a problem. So I mean, I think, even with all that said, their locker room has been, even though with COVID, I couldn't be in there, but just from what I know of the guys, they're still going to go out there and play. It's just a matter of, can you come up with a scheme that works defensively? And will the guys, and even then, scheme, no scheme, the way they look sometimes, it's like, that ain't a scheme thing. You got to actually just have a little heart and, and some fight. I don't care, who's drawing up your defense. If you let a guy just go by you and with no resistance and dunk on you, that's not scheme. That's just you got to want to not let a guy go by you. So, but I think even with that, I think Davion being there will help. I think having Mo Harkless for an entire season will help. I think them adding some size, everyone's kind of, I mean, even I am to a degree confused by the whole, like, what are you going to do with Tristan Thompson and Alex Len? But if anything, they're tougher. And, if anything, they're tougher. And I mean, and like I said, when you're the team they've had the last 15 years, they can't look at anybody like, oh, we're too good for him. You're really not. Anyone who can help you, you take anyone who can help you. So, sure. And then, the roster you have today is not necessarily the roster you'll have, say, in February. So there's still going to be time to make changes, adjustments. I think they still have some holes on the wing. Can you really count on a guy who's like a two-way player like a Lewis King to help you in that? But they got some holes still. But I think they're at least one thing they'll be tougher. Having a guy like Terrence Davis for a whole season will help. And then, like I said, to me, top 10 is a realistic goal.
Gotcha. Yeah. I hope they get there. I really do. For my family's sake, at least.
I was going to say too. I mean, because it's a tough division. Like when you're battling with LeBron and AD and Steph and Clay and Kawhi and PG. Like, when do you see the Kings kind of being a perennial playoff team. Like, do you think there's a couple moves away from that, or what kind of makes the difference, makes them kind of a playoff contender?
They need an all-star player. They're the only team in the division, I think, that doesn't have at least 2 former all-stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look at the Lakers, they got LeBron, AD, and now they got now you throw in Russ and all, so I can stop there without going to Melo and Dwight or whatever. And then you go to Phoenix, you got Chris Paul, you got Devin Booker, you got DeAndre Ayton rising, you go to Golden State, you got Steph. Clay's coming back from an injury, so I kind of put an asterisk by him because you don't know what he's going to be just yet. But you still got Draymond, who's still when he's engaged and gives a damn, one of the best defenders in the league.
Right.
Then you can start going through the rest of the conference. You got to have at least one star, and they're hoping that becomes De'Aaron.
Yeah,
I think he's getting closer to that. Mm-hmm. So you've got to have at least one all-star in the West. You can't. Memphis got in because Ja Morant played like an all-star.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. And so you got to have a guy who can do that every night. Ja did that for them, and they were also tough. I mean, Dylan Brooks was just tougher than anybody the Kings had last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to have that one guy. And I know a lot of the Kings fans get into the whole thing, is Ja Morant better than De'Aaron Fox? They go back and forth and all that. I don't know why that's their obsession.
That kind of stuff doesn't even matter, really.
I'm like, who cares? Like, well, De'Aaron has better stats. I'm like, well, Ja was in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I said, and as an organization, you got to move past stuff like, hey, at least we beat Luka. Who cares? No, we have the team has a winning record against Luka. Luka has been to the playoffs 2 of his 3 years, and you guys haven't. No one cares about your winning record against Luka. Yeah, so as an organization, it has to become a total commitment to not caring about silly stuff. And the Kings have done that, going far back to when Tyreek Evans was the rookie. Can he average 25 and 5? So what?
Right.
Yeah.
Even Tyreek was like, I don't care. We're losing. It was like someone had found some stat that only 4 rookies had ever averaged 20 points, 5. It was like LeBron and a couple of, so it was they literally stopped a game to acknowledge that Tyreek was going to average 25 and 5. I mean, this is ridiculous. And they have a history of being focused on the wrong thing at the organization. Yeah. And that's not on the players, that's the organization. No one cares, well, is he better than Ja? Ja's on a better team, that's what you care about. That team beat you at least twice last season. Right. That's the team that kept you out the playoffs. That's what matters. There's all the other stuff, why isn't De'Aaron an all-star? So what? That doesn't matter. What's important is winning, and that has to be a collective thing. And I wonder sometimes in that locker room, do you have enough guys who are it's about winning? And I know with Davion, you got one guy who cares about winning.
Sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You need that one guy. You need that guy who's going to be that kind of that agitator. No, this isn't cool. This ain't cool. Yeah. And he could be that guy to help him.
Yeah. I hope so. So we shall see with them. But on to other things. I see you got that Raiders jacket on right now. You've been following them for as you said, lifelong fan and all of that. And now you've seen them move on to Vegas. What do you think about that spot out there right now? And do you think they're going to make a big push this year?
Now, I've been to the stadium twice. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stadium. I mean, all my Bay Area friends can't stand me because they're like, "Oh, you still cool with them?" I'm like, they were in LA when I was growing up, so they've always been a transient team to me. I'm more a fan of the people I know there than I am the city. So I'm like, when the tickets are one day affordable, maybe in a decade, it gives me reason to go down there for games. But I like the stadium. I'm still not sold on Gruden making draft choices. I know everyone says Mike Mayock is the GM. John Gruden's picking those players.
Right.
And if one thing we learned from Tampa, you don't trust John Gruden picking players. I mean, you shouldn't, I don't have much faith in that at all.
We got to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, he went there with Tony's team.
Yeah, it's a little different.
I know, he still gets credit because I think as Warren Sapp once said, he made the offense accountable out there. to where it wasn't cool to get 12 points in a game, and put it all on the defense. But if John was just the coach, I'd feel a whole lot better.
Yeah,
because even though there's times where I think he's too conservative offensively. I think last season I was like, God, how many times are you going to throw it to the flat?
Right.
I'm like, you drafted Henry Ruggs because he's the fastest dude, and all he does is go in the motion and run to the flat. I'm like, does he do anything?
Yeah.
Henry Ruggs was nice on Madden. I made him into a 99.
They're a great
burners for sure.
Yeah, I could have put a little screen. He had like I had like 2 or 3 routes with Henry Ruggs. 4 catches, 183 TDs, and I was like, come on, John, can't you do this? But I'm cautiously optimistic about them. I'm in my head prepared for them to start 8-3, then not win another game.
Man.
Because that's what happens with them every year. Especially
very possible.
Yeah, they were looking good for a good stretch. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, when you can't stop anybody, I mean, when the only they can beat you is a deep pass and they give up a deep pass. I mean, it's almost like the Kings. It's like, could you at least be just slightly below average, not just terrible on defense?
Sure.
Right.
I mean, not be the worst. Can you be 18th in defense? And I think if they can make some improvements there, I don't have a whole lot of faith it's going to happen yet until I see it. But they can score with KC when they're on. They got to get stops. They can score with anybody when they're on. It's about like I said, being aggressive with the play calling in the red zone and getting a defense that doesn't give up a point, a score every time they're on the field.
Gotcha.
Sticking with the Raiders too. I think I saw this week that they're going to be the first team to mandate like proof of vaccination for fans to get into the games. I was wondering what you thought as far as the new COVID rules that like the NFL is implementing, like how you felt about that as far as teams having to forfeit if an unvaccinated player catches COVID.
I think, I'll start with the fan part. I think you're going to see that with every team eventually. I think you're going to see more and more teams go to that just because I don't think any team wants to be known as the game where they became a super spreader event.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any team out there going, man, that game against the Cowboys was great. Too bad we had 4,000 people catch COVID. So I think you're going to see more teams going to that, and it's like with the whole rules with the players. I know some players. I said, you know what? This is their league, and they ain't trying to lose a bunch of money because Cole Beasley wants to pretend to be a doctor.
Right.
They're not going to lose a bunch of money off of that. They're going to, this is, if it's a health thing, and they're going to do what they got to do for the league. And I think, talk about peer pressure. Would you want to be the guy in the locker room when I got to forfeit my check because you just, that's why the whole Lamar Jackson thing was fascinating to me. I'm like, he had COVID twice.
Yeah.
And he was on, and he was like, well, I'm still not. I'm like, I wonder how his teammates look at him like, really?
Yeah.
Because I mean, what if he catches it again and say he has it, say, week 1 against the Raiders and there's no Lamar Jackson? I mean, I'll take my W's any way I can get them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean.
But then it would be a forfeit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be a forfeit if he's the only one out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's going to force some players to make a choice. I saw the Atlanta Falcons. They're the first team that's fully vaccinated. And I think you're going to see more and more teams just move to that because I don't think any guy wants to be the guy that gets blamed for that. Who wants to be that guy where it's like, man, we had a chance to make the playoffs until you decided to go out and, while not vaccinated and you caught COVID,
Right.
In that same kind of way, no one wants to get penalized for the taunting and things as they've now added these new rules in. And yeah, you shaking your head. Why did they even allow that to happen? I heard the Giants GM, I believe, try to explain it. And while I guess he said there were some of the higher ups that felt that way, it seems like no players or fans are on board with that. What do you think about?
I'm just so sick of them with some of these rules. It's like, come on. I mean, like,
no fun league.
The game is played with emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you got to have a line. You don't want people, doing stuff to start fights, but
right.
The game is played with emotion, and it kind of reminds me of how they used to sell the videos of players hitting each other as they want to take the hits out. It's like, I like taunting on video games.
Exactly.
And it's like, trying to box these players in is just, to me, it's just too much. It's like, come on, it's like a lot of people who have never played the game or had the emotion of the game are telling the guys, take your emotions out. And then on the other hand, you say the guys don't have any passion about the game. It's like, which one do you want?
Right.
And I just think it's like another, like, it's almost like they can't put a dress code in. Let's do something to them. Let's try to like bring them in. I'm like, I don't think it's necessary, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah.
Well, I hope they fix that. We already saw, I think, the first game of the year this preseason. It was a basic play where a guy just got kind of shrugged his shoulders and they immediately threw the flag. Everybody was in an uproar. So I would hate to see that continue to go on, but it is what it is for the moment. And hopefully players, at least for this year, until the rule gets fixed, can adjust accordingly. So we shall see. But yeah, that's great stuff there in regards to the Raiders and NFL and things. I wanted to get back to more stuff that you've written about recently as well, too, though. I read a great article you wrote about the Big Three and the Triller deal. I saw a picture you posted with Ice Cube. Can you just talk about his impact and the great things he's doing with the Big Three still?
Okay, yeah. Well, growing up, Ice Cube, my favorite all-time rapper.
Absolutely.
Ice Cube was one of the few people I met who was famous that I got excited to meet.
Okay.
If you're in this business long enough, you're like, okay, I've met everybody. But the first time I met Cube, I was like, that's Cube.
A little starstruck.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's Cube. That's Cube. And then I was like, man, I'm way taller than Cube. But, but yeah, I talked to him about this kind of just, it's given some of the retired players, chance to make a little money. It's entertaining. Right. I've seen the Big Three live. I watched it on TV. It's not the NBA. It doesn't try to be the NBA. It's fun. And I think, I mean, I can't imagine the work it takes to start an entire league.
Yeah. It's a whole lot. Lot.
No matter how the scale of it, to say, I'm going to start an entire sports league. Yeah. That's a lot. Yeah. I think Cube was able to get a little more money behind him than LeVar did.
Got some more traction behind him for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just kind of just doing different things, alternative things, just kind of just trying different stuff. I'm all for that. And like I said, for me, it's cool. You watch. There have been guys from the Big Three who've gotten tryouts in the NBA.
Yeah,
I think I think Joe Johnson will get buckets till he's about 70. I don't think. I mean, I just think watching that and then seeing the opportunity they give coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They have no problem hiring women to coach, and as Cube says, you get the best people for the job no matter who it is. And I think any player could benefit from having Lisa Leslie as a coach.
Sure.
So, I like it. I'm really rooting for the league to succeed outside of my, Ice Cube fandom, but I'm rooting for the league to succeed. I think, summertime, it's a great time to have something different. Now the 3-on-3s in the Olympics. And so, I mean, I think you're going to see, as they kind of adjust, they're kind of still figuring things out. I know the pandemic hurt that, they couldn't have a season, but people forget one of the first ideas of a bubble came from the Big Three.
Exactly.
They thought about the idea of let's put these guys in a house and then just test them. And then, you got to be clean, negative to get into the house. And then we just keep everyone in the same house. They thought about that before, then eventually the NBA bubble came along, but they're in a lot of ways they think ahead of the curve. So I think it's a good thing, and I'm all for it.
Absolutely. So am I. Alec, do you have anything?
No, I don't think there was really anything else I wanted to add. I think we covered most of it.
I'll take it then one more time. Then actually, you talked about Ice Cube and his impact on you a few times. You also had an article you wrote. I believe it was a little while ago now, but just talking about John Singleton, who passed a couple years ago, and talking about his impact on LA and things, and with Ice Cube, with his Boys in the Hood movie and things. I bring all that up, and we definitely could talk about the great things there. We could go on all night. I personally could, because I'm a big fan of it myself. What I want to talk about specifically, though, was his last thing that he did, which was Snowfall, and how great of a show that was. Were you a big fan of Snowfall?
I'm a big fan of Snowfall. I'm a fan of almost about everything John's done, and especially his LA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because being from LA, growing up in Long, it's so authentic.
Absolutely.
Because I was a kid in the 80s, and the hairstyles and the music, that's my childhood for real. Like that's really my childhood. And it's like it's like his uncle looks like my dad did back in the day with the curl. So it just fits it's all very authentic. I mean, I was there's gonna be some Hollywood, some drama to it or whatever, some act, maybe some embellishments here and there, but it all feels, all his stuff, especially his LA stuff, always felt so real. Like Boys in the Hood, as somebody told me, it almost felt like a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you didn't know any better, it was like you just they were following real people.
Yeah.
Through LA, and then even you get to like Baby Boy, where it's like we all know a Baby Boy. We all knew somebody who was like a little too old to be acting the way he was acting and needed to grow up. So we all knew that guy, some of us maybe still know that guy. So there's this, and then when you just put all that stuff in LA and just it's so authentic to from where they shoot it at, and you go like, okay, wow, I know what liquor store is. So John wasn't taking those movies about LA to a Hollywood studio and recreating South Central.
Right.
He was actually shooting the movie in South Central, hiring people from the neighborhood, and he gave so many people, their start. You look at the Boys in the Hood.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't at the time. It's an all-star cast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You didn't know it at the time, but you got Regina King, Nia Long, Ice Cube, Lawrence Fishburne, Angela Bassett, Morris Chestnut, Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah.
That is just that was his first movie. It's kind of like in music, you drop a classic for that first album. You're like Nas. You're always chasing Illmatic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do, and I think that's kind of I think with Snowfall, John got close to get back to that where he was with Boys in the Hood. But you drop a movie like that, number one, your first one out the bat, you're always chasing that. Like I said, I think every great musician, their first album is like they're always chasing like that feeling of man when it was. I think there's a rawness to your first project.
Definitely.
There's like almost like a naive kind of feeling about it because you don't know what you don't know at that point, so you just go and do it. Yeah. Like John didn't know he wasn't supposed to do a movie like that. He just went and did it. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big Snowfall fan. I watched that. I was trying to find a Fila suit that can be Uncle Jerome or whatever for Jason for Halloween. But the way this hopping around, I may not be doing nothing but chilling in the house. But
still, I got you on that.
Yeah. So I did find a little Fila. I found part of the Fila outfit online. So I'm like, I still might break out the Fila outfit.
That's a good look.
Find the curl wig and see what I can do.
Man. Yeah, I gotta see that. I gotta see that. I don't know why I brought that up in part in regards to him though, because I've talked about him. I talked to him for months now, trying to get him to watch. He hasn't even started it yet. Can you just help me and telling him he should just start the show at least?
Start with season 1 and get caught up with the rest of us. Go ahead and do it.
I will.
I'm trying to tell him.
He's constantly on my head about it, so I gotta check it out.
Because that's what the pandemic did last year for me was just that I couldn't do nothing. There's all these shows because normally with this NBA season,
right?
There's a lot of shows I don't even know are out. Like I just went back and started watching all these shows I had missed during the season.
Okay.
So yeah. You got to get caught up on Snowfall. Yeah, that's
I'll try to shoot him some bell right now. Do you watch Dave also?
Yes.
You do watch Dave.
Yes.
I haven't watched that. I don't know.
He's hesitant for some reason.
No, I'm a big fan. I'm a fan of just silly comedy where it's like, and it's just Dave is just so silly that it's hilarious.
Okay.
Like the fact that he just hangs out with Gator to me is the funniest thing.
Gator's hilarious. You like Gator too, Gabe.
Yeah, because Gator, it's like the craziest idea. This Dave dude has a hype man named Gator who he just met. I'm not going to ruin the whole thing for you, but yeah.
Got you.
I like silly stuff like that. So I've watched. Yeah, I just finished watching Dave the other day.
Okay. Yeah. The second season was a little different than the first, like tonally.
Yeah.
I felt like the first season was a lot more just like laugh out loud funny.
The first season, I forgot. I was hanging out with my girl and I just stumbled upon it on Hulu, and we watched the whole thing straight. And I was like howling laughing the whole time. That show was so, because I had heard a Lil Dicky, I'd heard a little bit of his stuff, but I didn't know he had a whole show.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll finally give it a look. Alex been telling me to watch that. I've been telling you to watch Snowfall. We both got things on our list now to check out. So
great, show for show.
Exactly.
Got you. The last thing, then we'll get out of here. The last thing I want to ask, I like music a whole lot too. You've mentioned Nas, and we talked about Ice Cube a little bit. I just want to know right now, is anybody specifically that you're listening to?
Let me see what I'm listening to. I've been on that Tyler the Creator for a good month.
That's a classic album. I'm already saying it.
I've been on that for a good month. I'm like, I've been on that one heavy. I was just like, I'm like an older dude. I'm not that old dude who's like, I don't want to listen to y'all, and it's weird because I don't think I'm that old. Then I realize I'm 42, and some of these dudes could be my kids. Not Tyler, but some of the younger. I'm like, man, these guys are like really young, but I'm a music junkie. So I got some of my young homies that are like, hey, check this out. And they'd be like, hey, OG. I'm like, come on now, I ain't that old. But anything from TDE I listen to.
Absolutely.
And with Isaiah Rashad, the new one,
thoroughly enjoy that.
I listen, so those I'm listening to this new Vince Staples that came out. He's from Long Beach, he's from the north side, not the east side. East side is the best side of Long Beach, but
I'll let y'all handle that.
He's north side, right? North.
Yeah. He went. Yeah, he loved near Jordan High. I went to Long Beach Poly.
Okay.
So I'm from the same area where Snoop and all them was from.
Got you.
Yeah. So, but I listen to Vince Staples. I listen to a lot of podcasts to find music. I'll listen to like I didn't know Vince had a new project. I listened to Drink Champs, and I'm like, he got a new project. So I just probably the lately that Vince Staples. That Tyler, Benny the Butcher had a good one that came out. But I'm like, the one thing I hate about music nowadays is this is where I do feel old. These like little 20-minute albums annoy me.
Yeah, I get you on that. I don't mind them honestly because I listen to a lot of albums that were just too long. So the short ones I'm cool with. But sometimes like with Benny, I want to hear a whole project from him. So
I'm like Benny, you're good. Benny, you can give us 45 minutes. Some dudes only need to give us 20 minutes.
Right.
Some guys, they don't need to do more than 2 minutes on a song. Give us a couple of verses and get out. But Benny could, I'm getting it. I'm like, it's over?
Right.
So, there's something, I could do anyone from Griselda. I could do a full, I grew up on like 60-minute albums. Like, dude, like I had albums where you take a flight from the Bay to LA, that was your thing the whole way. By the time you landed, it might almost be over. But also back then too, you couldn't have your headphones on for 10 minutes.
Wow.
So that was back in the day. Was like I don't know that was going to happen with your headphones on, but you couldn't have your headphones on for the first 10,000 feet. But that's what I've been listening to, and I mix in my oldies still, my old school R&B. And now that I get older, what's old school is getting way more close to home. I'm like, man, this is weird. I can't. They tell me the 90s is on the oldie station. I'm like, no, come on, no, it can't not. Don't tell me that.
Really?
I listen to. I'm when it comes to music, I listen to anything hip hop at least once. I'm not one of those. I'm an old. He ain't like what I grew up on. He ain't supposed to be like what I grew up on. Like. It's not 1995. It ain't supposed to be like what I was on in 95, 96. They're supposed to be different, and some of these young guys got some different stuff to listen to. And I'll give anybody a try, I didn't like 21 Savage till I heard him with J. Cole.
Okay.
I was like, oh, wow, this dude, then that kind of got me diving into his stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll take a journey with anybody musically and give them a try.
Sure.
And then, and see where, I played the new Nas a lot too. So, yeah.
Some of the 90s guys still doing it.
Yeah, but Lauren Hill's on there trolling us. So Lauren Hill trying to make excuses for why she'd be late for show. I'm like, no, Lauren. That's a nice bar, but no, we can't forgive you for being 2 hours late to the show. But
And she did agree on that.
For me, I caught a Lauryn Hill show where she was on time.
Oh, hey, you one of the
maybe I'm just lucky. I caught Lauryn Hill on time. I caught Kanye before he had his on the Life of Pablo tour. I caught one of the last shows where he went off the deep end.
I told Garrett about this Kanye rollout.
I was gonna ask you, do you think the album drops ever?
I don't know. I think it does, but I'm almost afraid at this point that there's gonna be so many delays and all this. By the time it drops, no one's gonna care.
He just announced another listening session in Chicago, so he pushed it back another month.
I'm like, come on, Kanye. People are already mad at you as it is. They ain't forgot about you at the White House. With your only chance that people would not be mad at you is to give them a good album, and even then they're gonna side eye you. But being in this business, I've always knew that there's people who I like for what they do who have completely different views on life than I do.
Sure.
I don't kind of get rattled like, oh, Kanye hangs out with. I'm like, yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm like, a lot of rich people like Trump.
Yeah.
They just won't say it, but a lot of rich folks in the NBA, NFL, they like him because they care about their taxes.
Right. Right.
And so, but I don't know if Kanye can even live up to his own hype at this point, because remember, he was supposed to be like a gospel rapper.
Yeah. I mean he's putting butts in seats with these shows, so.
Yes, I don't know what Kanye is going to do. He at the Big 3 game with a ski mask on. I'm like, I don't know what's up with him, but that show,
he's living in the stadium and all that.
Yeah, that last show I went to was on the Life of Pablo tour. It was the show where KD was in the mosh pit with us.
Okay. Oh, really?
What was that like? It was crazy because when he tried to go through the crowd with us, he had security. So you don't see KD, you see these big old dudes move. I'm like, what you moving me for, man? I ain't do nothing. Here come KD with the people, So, but yeah, I mean, it was one of the best shows I've ever seen, So, I'll be patiently waiting to see, and because on one of my Kings, my Kings podcast, I talk music too. So I'll be waiting for that to come out so I can kind of give it my little review of what I like, don't like, and. But I usually like Kanye's music.
Yeah.
More time. For the most part, For the most part, I like, because to me, what made Kanye cool was that he was a rapper, but he didn't pretend to be hard. He didn't pretend to be, to have this crazy story. Like, my mom was a professor, and, I dropped out of school, and they were, he had different type of problems, and, And I think what's good in music is when you have diversity just in thoughts, lyrics, everything, different stuff. I think that's good for the culture. I think it's good. Everybody can't be Jay-Z. Everybody didn't sell dope. No matter what they say on record, not everybody sold dope.
Right.
Not everybody, has a bunch of chains. A lot of rappers are broke. I felt like that one J. Cole line, talking, where he said, we're talking about being a broke rapper. I know rappers who are like, we be at the same spots, and they have been rapping for a while. It's like, they might have a local following, they might be big where they're from, but it's like they not selling out arenas across the country, but they somehow carved out a niche as a rapper. So those stories, telling those stories, I love hearing that. I love like the regional stuff, because when I travel, I kind of feel like I have not a connection, but I have an idea where I'm going based on the music. I've lived in like Vallejo now for almost 20 years. Okay. So I've gotten to meet E40 a few times, and I feel like I'm almost people from Vallejo won't let me claim Vallejo because I'm still a Laker Dodger fan. Okay. So I can't claim Vallejo, even though like 2 of my kids were born in Vallejo. They're like, no, you still a Dodger fan. You can't claim us, but
that's all right. Still a Laker Dodger fandom.
Yeah, I think music gives you a natural, connection to places. When I first went to New York, my friend, she stayed by Marcy Projects. I didn't know where I was. I was like, is that Marcy? She's like, if you don't get in the damn house, I ain't gonna go run up in there. But I was like, I've seen that sign before. But she lived in Brooklyn right as the gentrification was starting. So they were starting to move people further away from the projects, and kind of, they were like, yeah, that used to be the corner like the Wire right there. Then the people next door moved in. They moved them further down the block.
Dang.
So all the homies in Brooklyn gave me the whole gentrification lesson, and
Oh, man.
yeah. So yeah, but the music I think makes you feel connected to all those places.
Got you. Yeah, I'm a junkie just like you are. I be tweeting a lot of music and stuff all the time, so definitely in tune like you are. Boldy James is the name that popped in mind. Just I don't know if you heard his stuff recently. He's been pretty good. He's with Griselda.
No, I mean I'll listen to it. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out because my workout is when I get my music in.
Gotcha. I'll definitely send that to you. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
There's been other few that have been pretty good recently. So yeah, that was all. I just want to put a last word in about that. Alec, do you have anything right now?
No, we good. I mean, I appreciate you spending the time with us. We said 20 and 30. We're almost at an hour now. So
yeah, really
ain't no thing, you know. All I've got, you know, I love doing stuff like this, you know. So there's no problem at all. You know, I'm glad I could, you know, we could connect and do this, you know, and I'm down to jump back on anytime. So
great. We would love to have you. So again, thank you so much, Jason Jones, for joining us. Again, it's your boy G here. Alec, thank you. Great to have you both. So excuse me. But yeah, another great episode in the books, man. Again, follow us on IG and TikTok at Section.300. Follow us on Twitter at Section300 Sports. Got a whole lot more stuff going on. We've been gone since the draft, actually. So we're gonna come back soon as well and talk about all the other stuff that's been going on, Olympics, and there's plenty of topics coming up.
And follow Jason on Twitter as well too.
Exactly. Absolutely follow Jason everywhere. And yeah, this is another great episode in the books, man. We're gonna see you guys soon. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We out of here, man. Peace.
Deuces.